Welcome to Discover Vietnam, a place to explore the glorious history and the eternal beauty of the Vietnamese people. Today we look back on a time of fire and smoke, when an entire nation rose up, not only with weapons but with faith, unity, and patriotism. The Vietnam War was the longest, most arduous, and brutal struggle in the country's modern history. Facing the world's #1 military power, Vietnam still emerged victorious. Why? Not just because of brilliant military strategy, but because of the strength drawn from the people, an invaluable force that made the impossible possible. Strength comes not only from the military. In every war to defend the homeland, Vietnam has never relied solely on the military front. Because when the nation was invaded, every citizen, every home, every inch of land became a trench. Mothers who hid revolutionaries in silence. Farmers who carried each grain of rice, each pinch of salt to the battlefield. Teachers who stood before their classes amid the sound of bombs, keeping the dream of knowledge alive. Children who acted as couriers, delivering messages and information, contributing to the victories that shape history. The People's Front, invisible weapon, tangible victory. There is no weapon stronger than faith and the will of the people. The entire people is a united front. Not a mere slogan, but a blazing reality throughout wartime. When bombs fell and bullets flew, the people did not flee. They held their ground and defended their villages. When the enemy approached, they did not tremble. They nurtured hatred against the invaders, hid soldiers, and sent supplies. When the world stood in shock, Vietnam proved that the strength of its people was an impregnable fortress. The entire people is a united front, not just a revolutionary slogan, but a lasting reminder of the power of unity. When the will of the people forms a bastion, when every heart beats in unison for the nation, no force in the world can defeat Vietnam. Every citizen was a soldier. There was no clear front line between the military and civilians during the war against America, because every citizen, from the rice-planting farmer to the young courier, from the mother carrying rice to the factory worker, was a soldier in their own right. A mother in central Vietnam braved bombs to reach her fields, while stitching shirts for soldiers with the other hand. A boy in the Mekong Delta pedaled his bike to deliver letters, guided troops across rivers and dense swamp. A young woman in the north laid down her pen and picked up a backpack, heading to the Trung Son battlefield with her entire youth. War was not only fought by the army, it was the struggle of the entire people. And it was this all-encompassing participation that forged an unstoppable strength. A strong rear, the caring north. Northern Vietnam during wartime wasn't ablaze with gunfire, but it was a fortress of unwavering support for the front lines. Villages turned into workshops. Farms became warehouses for supplies. Each letter to the front, each folk song in bomb shelters, each pair of rubber sandals sent to the battlefield, all were expressions of love, faith, and shared sacrifice. Many mothers saw 3 or even 4 of their sons off to war, not knowing if they'd ever return. Yet they did not cry, because they believed, if the country needs them, my sons must go. The Northern Rear didn't just support, it shared the fire, shared the blood and flesh with the Southern battlefield. A decisive contribution to victory over America. Brilliant strategic thinking. Hit the weak point, not the strong one. The U.S. possessed advanced weapons, tanks, B-52 bombers, and enormous warships, yet Vietnam chose not to engage directly. Vietnam opted for a people's war strategy. Small guerrilla forces taking on large armies. Hiding among the population, striking from within the enemy's territory, using rugged terrains, forests, mountains, and rivers like invisible soldiers. While America tried to dominate through firepower, Vietnam fought with ideology. Use the few to fight the many, use the primitive to defeat the modern. Total warfare by the people, for the people, and long-lasting. Vietnam's strategy wasn't just military, it was a total war effort. Political, propaganda, mass mobilization, globalizing the conflict to gain international support. Military, small, flexible attacks, avoiding prolonged battles to wear down the U.S. Economy and logistics, self-reliance, strong support from the North, and the Ho Chi Minh Trail that supplied the battlefield relentlessly. War became a part of daily life, and every citizen became a soldier on the front line. Political offensives and psychological warfare. Vietnam fought not only with bullets, but with willpower and psychological tactics. The 1968 Tet Offensive, a surprise strike on major cities that shocked the American public. Though it came with high losses, it was a victory in media and global opinion. The 1975 Ho Chi Minh Campaign, swift, unexpected, bold, it completely collapsed the morale and resistance of the Saigon regime. Strike the will to fight, make Americans lose faith in victory, stir political division, and trigger massive protests within the U.S. The strategy of prolonged, dispersed, wear-down warfare. Vietnam didn't aim for a quick victory but embraced a long-term strategy, dragging the U.S. into an expensive, prolonged conflict, weakening the American economy, waiting for shifts in international politics, turning America's exhaustion into Vietnam's advantage. It was the Vietnamese people's endurance, determination, and faith in justice that led them to ultimate victory. A road that made history, the Truong Son Trail, lifeline of victory contributing to Vietnam's victory in the war against the United States, was a road that became legendary. That road was Truong Son, the lifeline connecting the rear to the front lines, the very soul of those arduous and heroic years of resistance. Truong Son, the road with no name, no number. The Truong Son Trail, also known as the Ho Chi Minh Trail, was not a single route. It was a vast network of paths threading through dense jungles, high mountains, deep ravines, and under relentless enemy bombardment. From 1959 onward, tens of thousands of people carved this road by hand, using picks, shovels, and sheer willpower. Dense forests and poisonous waters could not stop the footsteps of Vietnamese soldiers. American bombs failed to extinguish the flame of logistics. Bicycles, old trucks, and long lines of porters crossed forests and streams, carrying supplies to the blood-bound South, an unbreakable lifeline. The Americans called the Truong Son Trail a venomous snake and used every tactic: carpet bombing, chemical defoliants, B-52 strikes. Yet they could never sever the flow of reinforcements. Because Truong Son was not just a geographic route, it was a path of willpower, where human spirit proved stronger than steel and courage rose higher than the mountains. From this trail, thousands of troops, millions of tons of weapons and supplies braved dangers to sustain the southern battlefield. Truong Son, legendary and immortal. Truong Son symbolizes silent sacrifice, where generations of youth cut across Truong Son to save the nation, and many of them forever remained in the vast forest. It was where 20-year-olds became immortal, where patriotism was tested in blood, sweat, and fire. When Vietnam was reunified, Truong Son was no longer a war front, but it lives on as a monumental symbol of bravery. The resistance war against America is an eternal epic, where every Vietnamese, whether soldier, farmer, student, or mother, helped write history with blood, sweat, and unshakable faith. We triumphed not only with weapons, but with the power of the people, Vietnamese wisdom, and the indomitable spirit of a nation that has never surrendered. It is a pride, not only of the past, but also a driving force for the present and future. Thank you for joining Discover Vietnam on this journey to revisit a heroic chapter of our nation's history. If you felt proud, moved, or simply want to learn more about Vietnam, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with those who love history and love this country. See you again in the next episode, where we'll uncover more untold stories of Vietnam.